Right, Moff, let's go live button. So let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we've got a doozy to dig into. We're talking about John Durham and his drop on the day, but we can't get into any of it until the stream is alive and well all across the fruited plain of the internet, and it looks like it is. That means it's great news. We can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun, deep in downtown Phoenix, Arizona, and today we are talking about the hurricane. We've got John Durham and his report that has come out. We've been waiting 4 years for this, and we are going to go through it in detail today. It's about 306 pages, so we're not going to read the whole entire shebang, but we are going to see what is inside, take a look at the executive summary, meander around through the document, and see exactly what has been revealed after this long wait. But we have some other stories to dig into before we get there. Over the weekend, Joe Biden was out talking about white supremacy all across America, and he was joined by Secretary Mayorkas from the Department of Homeland Security, and they were both hinting that white supremacy is going to be the centerpiece of what we have already been talking about here, which is their new domestic war on terror, which I think means all of us or anybody who doesn't agree with them on every single issue. So certainly an interesting development. Another article came out saying that the Department of Homeland Security has been training with avatars, with different personas, different personalities that are targeting conservatives, essentially. So this comes from training. This is a fake person. His name is Pete. Look at this little monster right here. Pete, late 30s, white man, and he's anti-government. He's anti-authority. And visually, we see a portrait of Pete, a little suburban dad with a lawnmower, you know, a lazy boy, somebody who's out there taking care of his yard. So that's who they're targeting now. We'll go through all of that little monster Pete. And we'll also see what the Department of Homeland Security is doing with regard to biometrics targeting, because this was another document that came out from reclaimthenet.org. They've got some details about what they're looking for. And Thomas Massie was warning all about this. And so we'll take a look at some updates. What is the FBI doing? And how are they inflating their numbers, and so on. So all of that in the first segment. Similarly, over the weekend, we saw the Patriot Front group marching around Capitol. Very interestingly, this happened simultaneously to Joe Biden talking about white supremacy. So as he's talking about white supremacy, there is a group that many people in the media, many articles say is a white supremacist-ish group, is marching around the Capitol, and they got a nice accommodation from the Capitol Police or from the DC Police, I'm not sure who, but they got accommodated into the subway, like nice little entourage as they made their way down into the metro. We're going to go through and understand what this group is about. It is actually not all feds, surprisingly. You know, you take a look at that and you go, I'm pretty sure that's like, is that just FBI agents? No, it's actually more than that. And so we'll go through it. Wikipedia's got an article up. We've got Pepe's grandma at Bad Kitty Unleashed on Twitter. And we're also going to check in with our friend Amuse, who does great work over on Twitter. We've got an article from his Substack asking, who is this group? What are they doing? Are they feds? Are they not feds? We'll take a look. Then we'll ask ourselves what's going on with the Biden whistleblowers, because the Biden whistleblowers are apparently missing, or they're in court, or they're under other suppression, they're under other lids. They can't find them. James Comer's talking about it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is also explaining what happened, talking about other whistleblowers being safe. And then Comer's team added some context about these missing people. So we'll go through all of that. We are scheduled for a weaponization committee hearing later this week on Thursday. So 3 whistleblowers evidently are going to be testifying in Congress about all of this. So we've got a lot of whistleblowers. Some are missing, some are not missing. Some matter, some don't matter, I guess. We'll see. And we'll go through all of that today. There are no visitor logs being disclosed from the Biden White House. He literally has done nothing in these past few days. He called a lid at like 2:30 today. He went and visited his grandkids' high school graduation or something, and then went back to the White House, and he was done by like 2:30. So they want to know, who is he meeting with every time he goes back to Delaware, and they want his visitors logs, but they're not getting them. Secret Service said, nope, can't have them, and we'll take a look at that. We also have Jonathan Turley. He's shocked about the media cover-up. Can't believe how extensive it has been as all this bad news comes out of the gate. The media doesn't want to talk about any of it. We've got Hunter Biden updates very briefly. John Brennan sat down for a full deposition or a closed-door interview. I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about, but they were there asking about this email. John Brennan, former CIA. We remember that Mike Morrell was the other CIA guy, and they were sending emails, and they were concocting this whole scheme in order to create this new laptop cover story for the laptop that Hunter Biden left behind at the repair center. And so there was closed-door proceedings. Jim Jordan explains a little bit about it. Matt Gaetz explained what happened. And then we've got new stories that a lot of the people who wrote that letter made significant donations to Democrats. So all these former CIA people, senior operations officers, senior intelligence, and so on, all making donos to the Dems. So not a surprise at all. And then, of course, we'll dig into the full 306-page report on John Durham that he released today. And so, my friends, we have got a stacked deck. We've got a lot to get to. And so if you want to be a part of the show, the best way to do that is by joining us on our community at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do member-only streams, and we do Saturday shows and morning streams. And so we'd love to have you join us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com or as a member on YouTube, where we do the same stuff. So come and check us out. And no matter where you join, no matter how you become a member, don't forget to grab the private Telegram group link, which is in the community tab section if you're on YouTube, and it's on locals if you're on locals. Now, as we saw, lots to get to, so we've got to be properly healthy and fortified and nutrified with our friends over at Field of Greens, because we'd all like to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds, I know. But how sick are you of all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets? You know, we've all been there, we've all done that, and they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Seems pretty easy. You do that, and the weight would probably just fall right off. But vegetables, not a fan. And fruit, who's got time to prepare that every day? Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula. Very specific fruits and vegetables you're not going to find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you can burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when you go visit your doctor and he says, wow, you've lost weight. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com, save 15% with code Robert when you check out. It's more than greens. They've got stuff to help you sleep, stuff to help you calm down, stuff for your joints, stuff to help you get real lean, all sorts of amazing stuff at fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to use code Robert when you check out. And remember, the vegetables want to be eaten. That's why they're here. That's why they burst out of the ground. So happy and so excited and so colorful. And, you know, the Field of Greens actually tastes delicious. If you read the ingredients on there, if you just go over there, you'll see cranberries and blueberries and all sorts of good stuff. So check it out at fieldofgreens.com. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of the day, my friends, because we got a lot to get to. As Biden continues to push his new war on domestic terrorism, both he and the Department of Homeland Security are doubling down on white supremacy as the biggest threat against the country. And they have the solution: targeting conservative Americans and using biometrics systems to do it. Biden announced this once again. He's been talking about this a lot in his administration when he was at a college giving a speech that he could barely mumble out. Here is what he said.
Stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out
what
as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Even the microphone didn't like it.
I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU.
I'm sure.
I say it wherever I go.
So he has been saying it for a long time because they gave him that talking point. They just put it up on the teleprompter many times. And as usual, every time he comes out and he says these things, he's often in the most evil looking environments, you know, and he's just sitting here looking just just kind of mad and angry, and he's got that tone. Almost reminds me of his MAGA insurrection speech out from the gates of hell, just a little bit different color scheme this time. But this is what he said, and he had a hard time even articulating it.
To stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out
I don't know what he said.
The most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Yeah. All right, so he's going to give that mean mug there. I'm really hardcore about white supremacy and all this stuff, and scream at us about it, even though, he's got a pretty bad history with helping white supremacists and standing right next to them. The Gateway pundit brought this up, says this unfortunate video of Joe has resurfaced, the one where Joe is delivering the eulogy and the KKK Kliegel to Senator Robert Byrd's funeral. There he is, Senator Robert Byrd, right there. What's Joe Biden doing there? What the heck is he doing there? He just told us that this was the worst scourge in America. Here he is delivering the eulogy.
Although I and my colleagues behind me revere the Senate, Robert C. Byrd elevated the Senate.
He elevated it.
Other great men
Yeah.
and their families would have chosen for them to lay in state in the rotunda. But Bob Byrd,
Wow.
his family chose to lay in state in the Senate chamber.
Wow. So Joe Biden, big fan of Robert KKK Byrd. That's interesting. He didn't mention that in his speech the other day. And he's also had a long history of other racist comments.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Whoa.
Kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who was articulate and bright and clean and nice-looking guy.
Yeah, Obama's
Biden
nice and
recalling
clean.
his early Senate career, bringing up two segregationist senators, Herman Talmadge and James Eastland, who called African Americans an inferior race. I was in a caucus with James O. Eastland, Biden said. He never called me boy. He always called me son. At least there was some civility. We got things done.
The senators that he is speaking of with such adoration are individuals who made and built their reputation on segregation.
Yeah, that's right. Kamala's right.
The Ku Klux Klan celebrated the
It's absolutely shocking, yeah, that Joe Biden would be involved and he would be doing such a thing in such a horrendous manner. It's just unbelievable. But anyways, so apparently his history of being involved in any of that doesn't really matter. Currently, it's the modern scourge, nothing that he had a part of at all. So there he is screaming at the rest of us, even though he was the one eulogizing a former KKK member at a funeral. I've never done that. I don't think many of you have done that. Probably zero of you have done that. But Joe Biden has done it. Anyways, so he is now going to be joined by other people in his administration to scream about white supremacy. And this one comes from Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary.
The president yesterday at his commencement address for the Howard University graduates called white supremacy the major domestic terror threat in this country.
Yeah,
is
major.
that correct?
It tragically is.
Whoa.
You know, in the terrorism context, domestic violent extremism is our greatest threat right now. Individuals driven to violence because of ideologies of hate, anti-government sentiments, false narratives.
If you have anti-government sentiment, that makes you a threat to the country. When, quite frankly, it's the most American thing that you could ever be, is challenging your government, questioning your government. This country was born out of revolution, always challenging our government. In fact, our Constitution is structured to enable us to challenge our government. It's in the First Amendment, is to petition your government for a redress of grievances. We've got a lot of grievances. And now to share those grievances, utilizing your free speech, utilizing your free association, all of which are protected in the very First Amendment, being anti-government is now some sort of a challenge. It's now some sort of terrorist group that you're a part of. These people are insane. This is not American. This is anti-American. and they talk about it as though it is American.
Personal grievances and the like. And regrettably, we have seen a rise in white supremacy.
Yeah. Rise in white supremacy, regrettably. Here he is one more time.
The president yesterday at his commencement address for the Howard University graduates called white supremacy the major domestic terror threat in this country. Is that correct?
It tragically is. You know,
it is correct.
In the terrorism context, domestic violent extremism is our greatest threat right now. Individuals driven to violence because of ideologies of hate, anti-government sentiments, false narratives, personal.
Anti-government narrative is an ideology of hate now. These people are sick. And in order to enable them to prosecute people across America, they have created a whole superstructure to do it. And let's see what we have here. Well, apparently I didn't click that link. I don't know what I did with that link, so we'll just go over to this one. Now, the Department of Homeland Security is working with Amazon to create a biometric database tool on Amazon's cloud. Says DHS is seeking information on the development of a cloud system that would help it manage biometric identity systems. The procurement notice that Reclaim the Net obtained seeks information on the requirements and the development of the Office of Biometric Identity Management to perform its biometrics work. Says the need for biometrics continues to grow among DHS components, and they're going to use Amazon Web Services to do it. Here's the technical criteria. It's going to live on Amazon Web Services, going to have additional features, different codes, going to be able to transfer the codes and other things. Says, according to the request for information, the tool is going to focus towards mitigating and resolving identified issues in the current usage of multiple uncoordinated tools for managing these requirements. Says the Office of Biometric Identity Management, the OBIM, provides biometric match, store, share, analyze services to the DHS. The need for biometrics continues to grow among the DHS components like Department of State, Department of Justice, and Department of Defense. Also, state, local, territorial entities, the intelligence community, international mission partners. Biometrics support critical national security priorities, including counterterrorism and immigration. We're focused on delivering accurate, timely, and high assurance biometric identity info. The overall goal is to improve services and access to expanded biometric data to enable their operational missions. Don't you like the sound of that? So they're going to be developing now new tools to go and investigate and gobble up biometric data so that they can continue to manage and control everything. And Thomas Massie is warning, this is just the first step in a big effort to gobble up everything. Massie, the representative, said, E-Verify includes pilot programs for alternate verification methods. Says there's no doubt that they're going to collect and then require more biometric information on all Americans to get a job. Then as more people work for cash, the government will require a CBDC. Right? Everything is being rolled out slowly but surely in order to continue to gobble up power as they unveil this new effort on white supremacy, domestic terrorists all across America, even though one of the biggest white supremacists in modern American political history who's in elected office is Joe Biden. And they look the other way for him. So that, my friends, is the update on this. Now, very conveniently, we have another story that popped open right as Joe Biden was making his speech. What a coincidence, isn't it? That we have this little march around the Capitol. The FBI and DOJ had a lot of fun in Washington recently, and the Patriot Front group marched around the Capitol, escorted into the subway by cops on bikes. But what is the Patriot Front? Who are these people? We'll take a look. But first, let's look at the scenes around D.C. You see, this was what the march looked like from our friends over at Roz Alerts on Twitter posted this saying that a group called Patriot Front was marching around the Capitol. All right. Okay. And there's the cops right behind them. They just keep on marching. Flags upside down, nation in distress with their flags. Right side up. And we're watching these videos. We're going, what the heck? Who are these people? What are they doing here? Here's another update. Looks like another angle. They're walking around. Cops are escorting them. This guy's giving them some language. Very upset. Say, get a job, guys, get a job. Here's another clip. And evidently, these individuals took their flags, they put them in a bunch of U-Hauls, and then they marched away. So you see they wrapped everything up. There's a bunch of U-Hauls sitting by.
Come here. I'm here. All shields in the second van.
All shields in the second van, they're saying. So it's a pretty big group of people there. You know, they're all there and they're all in their similar outfits. They've all got little roles and responsibilities, and they're just marching around the Capitol. And we're wondering who these people are and what are they doing there. Now, something else that was curious about this is that they kind of just marched right out of sight, right down into the subway, and nobody followed them. And they just disappeared into the night, almost like Batman or something. It was a strange situation. But these clips came over from Skyflyer81 on Twitter, and he had some other angles. You see, here's a photograph of the cops also escorting them around DC. Here's another angle. We had a bunch of stuff out there. I mean, like, look at this stuff. Is this... Looks like this tent is just set up. We have, looks like some heavy equipment. Back behind there, don't know, you know, that has a flag on it. I don't know if this is stuff that they brought out there. As the cops are rolling around. So I don't know if they, you know, presumably they got permits, presumably they got cops' permission. All this is just perfectly authorized. And this bro's flexing hard for the cameras. Nice, bro. Get it. So you see here, this they also stopped at the Washington Monument, and they're standing out here. They're taking pictures out in front. They've got cameras set up, bunch of flags upside down in distress, reclaim America. Here's another one. Cops are there. And so there's no...
Show your face.
This guy's still following him around. This guy was earlier there, right? He's kind of got the got that voice that you can't miss.
Wear Walmart khakis.
Wear Walmart khakis, that guy.
Tireless accomplishments.
So now he's speaking.
Wear Walmart
I would
khakis.
love to speak of the will.
He's speaking now. This is the leader. So this is the leader. This guy's name's Thomas Rousseau, and he has no mask on. So we'll learn a little bit more about him in a minute.
America, but I cannot. There is simply no time. If we do not stand firm in the way of tyranny now, there will be no memory of America to continue.
Your mom hates you.
Your mom hates you, he said.
To fight for.
You were the losers of your high
We have
school
gone
class.
out into this once
You're a bunch
great
of
country
incels.
and found its people wanting. Americans, real Americans,
You're sloppy.
are cast adrift
You're not even
and crushed
matching. You all
underfoot.
got different types of pants on.
The cities
Cargo
have
pants are
turned in languish in their squalor as their streets fill with human waste.
Reclaim your virginity.
Anarchists
Reclaim your
break
virginity.
apart, burn up, and terrorize citizens at will.
Oh no.
Suburbs are turned into a refuge from the cities, but only insofar
Okay.
as they are a vast and unsustainable economic racket.
All right, so you get the picture, right? This is what's going on in D.C. Now, here is when they're leaving. So they're marching away. They make their way over to the Washington Monument. They get heckled by that fella, and then they make their way back down, and the cops are still escorting them. So again, they probably got permits. They've got permission to be doing all of this. This is, a time, place, and manner approval, free speech, right, protest thing. So they've got all the permits. They're following the rules, and they're just really, I would imagine the point of this is to get eyeballs, right? It's to get people to talk about this, and so that they can get more recruits and they can promote their website and get more attention. And it's working, I would say. So they just keep marching around, and we can fast forward through it. Cops are following them again. And then as we get into the rest of the day, they load their flags back up in the vans, and they make their way back into the metro. So you can see them now congregating to leave. After all the flags are dropped into the U-Haul vans. And the cops are there. They just stop everybody from following them. Okay, and then we see that they are just kind of walk off into the night, and that's the end of it. Into the night they go. All right, and so we're asking ourselves, what is going on with this group? What is happening here? We know that we've talked about other groups out there, like the Proud Boys, like the Oath Keepers, covered many of those trials. And in the Proud Boys trial, we know that there were at least 8 confidential human sources that the government stipulated to. They said that this was something we can agree to exists. Remember, there were only 5 Proud Boys charged, 8 CHSs who were involved in the ordeal. Seems like a little bit off on those numbers. But it wasn't just that. Those were the people the government would admit to. The defense team said that there were very likely 50 plus other confidential human sources embedded within the Proud Boys. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is the appropriate ratio of that group of Patriot Front? How many of them are feds or federal informants? If it's the Proud Boys ratio, we know it's at least, I would say, 8 to 5 criminal charges. 8 feds produced 5 criminal charges that the government admitted, but it could be way more than that. It could be like a 50 to 5. 50 informants to 5 criminals alleged, if you want to use their terms. So basically, I don't know, those same numbers could hold there. It could be a 50 to 1 regular citizen to FBI informant, who knows? But let's go to Wikipedia. I know this is mainstream sourcing, but I wanted to see what they say this group is all about. Here's what they tell us. Patriot Front is a white nationalist and neo-fascist hate group. And in particular, I wanted to see what the history told us. Thomas Ryan Rousseau, they say he was a teenager when he founded the group on a Discord server, and that it supports a version of white-centered ideology. The group uses patriotic images, various symbols of fascism, talking about foreign births and different things. They say that it really started to form in 2018, March on Occupy ICE. 2019, they had a Boston event. There were Boston police arrested 3 Patriot Front members. In 2020, they marched in D.C. In 2021, 2 members arrested for vandalism in Connecticut. 2022, There was a March for Life protest that they attended, and they were just recently around in 2023 as well. And so we're trying to ask ourselves, what is actually happening here? A lot of people have questions about it. And so I turn over to two people who've done some good research on this. One is Pepe's grandma over at Bad Kitty Unleashed on Twitter. And here's what she wrote for us. She says, look, here is the unmasking of the Patriot Front. And she's a great follow at Pepe's grandma. We all love Pepe's grandma. Says, today you'll get a tiny bit of history on the Patriot Front, including the names of those involved in Idaho. The group, the Patriot Front, was from a renaming of Vanguard America in the aftermath of Charlottesville. Vanguard America was blamed for the Charlottesville car attack when an unknown stranger, somebody called James Alex Fields Jr., dressed like them in khakis, grabbed a shield. In June, an Idaho event provided much information as to the individuals involved. And we've got names. Okay, so there were actual people who were arrested. And these are the people that Bad Kitty Unleashed has snagged for us. Says the front group emerged from another organization called Vanguard America. And apparently there were protests. There were some woman was killed and various people were injured. But this is where things get juicy. Apparently a police officer stated that there were informants, plural, embedded in the Patriot Front group in June 2022, which just is obvious because they were embedded everywhere else in 21. So why would that have stopped? Which ones were they? We don't know. Police say 31 men were arrested, but when the police got asked about it, he didn't really want to get into the investigation. Says, a lot more here. The Patriot Front, if you want to learn more about them, I'd encourage you to go follow Pepe's grandma. She's got multiple good threads on this. And so a little bit more detail on who they are and where they came from. Another good story came over from our friend Amuse. And Amuse has a great Substack on Substack called Politique Republic. Says, are the Patriot Front, are they white supremacists, are they feds, or are they both? Said over the weekend, we saw videos of fit white men wearing khaki pants, blue polo shirts. The men carried upside-down flagpoles, marched orderly through the Capitol. Democrats are calling them neo-Nazis, and so Amuse did some research himself, and here's a fun meme. Dear Feds, at least change the uniform. Go from the Patriot Front, from the FBI uniform into the Patriot Front uniform. They just turn their shirts inside out. But based on multiple sources, they say that the membership of the group is only between 200 and 250 people, okay? So it's a small group. We probably saw most of them there. But people like Joe Biden and Mayorkas are going to point to these groups, and they're going to use them because they're loud. They're out in front. And you see, they're going to label them as white supremacists. And so what Amuse is asking is what are they, essentially? Are they a honeypot to entrap white supremacists? Don't know. But the group is almost never involved in any violence because they're coordinating with the police. So who is keeping Patriot Front alive? Who is propping them up? Does the FBI have an interest in keeping these groups around and at the forefront so that they can keep pushing their narrative about my white supremacy wrecking the country? I'd invite you to go read the rest of the article over from Amuse. And he's a good follow at Amuse on Twitter. But the Patriot Front marches around Washington, certainly filled with FBI informants and potentially undercover FBI agents and other assets of the intelligence community. We'll see them again, I'm sure. So while the FBI is the subject of a lot of scrutiny, we've got questions about FBI whistleblowers. Certain Biden crime family whistleblowers have gone missing. Very strange. Just as things start to heat up for the Bidens, key witnesses suddenly become hard to find. And James Comer explained about the difficulties that his oversight committee is having. And meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene said that other whistleblowers are safe. In fact, the key whistleblower, the one that she says is going to take down the Biden administration, is still okay, and they have eyes on. Now, the Oversight Committee is having a hearing this Thursday where additional whistleblowers are going to come out and testify. And we have reaction from Jonathan Turley about why this is all being covered up as this heats up. But James Comer was on with Fox, and this clip came from the Storm Redux, and he is a great follow. But here is what the conversation was on Fox News. The Biden crime family whistleblowers missing.
Well, with what we've investigated and the people that we've tracked down, going back to the CEFC, the two main players in that business, as well as all the Americans that were involved in the different Biden influence peddling schemes, as well as the Serbian national, the 9 of the 10 people that we've identified that have very good knowledge with respect to the Bidens, they're one of 3 things. Maria, they're either currently in court, they're currently in jail, or they're currently missing.
Nice.
So it's of the utmost importance that the FBI work with us to be able to try to identify what research they've done, what investigations they've done, because we have people that want to come forward, but honestly, Maria, they fear for their lives. Not only are the Biden lawyers and the Biden White House intimidating them, the media is trying to intimidate and discredit them. And I think if you look at the Rasmussen poll, 7 in 10 Americans are very concerned that Joe Biden's involved in a public corruption scheme, and they want to know more information. 7 in 10 Americans strongly support the work that our House Oversight Committee is doing, investigating the Biden influence peddling. And we just need to get some cooperation from these different deep state bureaucracies that are standing in our way.
Good luck.
This is absolutely extraordinary, and it is stunning that some people are missing that you need to prove this. Who in the White House is intimidating these people? Do you know?
I do know. We're saving that for a later time. But I can tell you one thing that a lot of people don't know. When I issue a subpoena to a bank or to an individual, the second I issue that, Jamie Raskins gets that. And when we get information in from the bank or from any individual, they make 2 copies, one for the majority, which are the Republicans, one for the minority, which are the Democrats. And my biggest problem with the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee is they're acting as a criminal defense attorney for the Biden family.
They are protecting their team. The Republicans are pretty bad at that, but the Democrats are not. They will weaponize the entire organization to protect crime family Joe. And so James Comer is speaking about missing whistleblowers, and Marjorie Taylor Greene has some additional details on this, says that some people are in fact missing, but the one that we care about is safe. Once again, from the Storm Redux.
Ma'am.
Because this is a very serious situation. It's not a game. Everything we're talking about involves a lot of money and the most powerful position in the world, the presidency of the United States. And I want to be very clear with everyone watching again today. Our whistleblower that brought us evidence that leads directly to Joe Biden, that Joe Biden took a payment from a foreign national in exchange for foreign policy favors, that whistleblower is not lost and they are safe, but they do fear for their lives. That whistleblower came through us, thankfully, through the help of Senator Grassley. So that is a fact, that is the truth. But other whistleblowers, yes, they are missing. They're either in court, they're in jail, or we cannot talk with them at this time because they can't be found. This is a very real situation that we're talking about, and our investigation is so important, Steve, that this will bring down the President of the United States. Woo! And I want to let everyone know something. We're going back to the Treasury Department today at 1 o'clock because we have more financial records that we have to review leading to the Biden family and Joe Biden himself.
So we are missing some whistleblowers, but not the one that implicates President Joe Biden, not the one who can take down the presidency. And questions about where these other whistleblowers went just disappeared. Very troubling indeed. Now, they are scheduled for an oversight hearing this Thursday. So even though we have some missing whistleblowers, some other whistleblowers are not missing. We have 3 whistleblowers who will testify at a hearing on Thursday, specifically about abuses that they've seen at the Bureau, at the FBI, and how the FBI has retaliated against them for speaking out. And Comer's office gave us a little bit more details on some context, because evidently there was more to this story. Said that some context on Fox yesterday, Comer said that the committee can't track down the informant. We're hopeful that the informant is still there. The whistleblower knows the informant. We're saying, what does that all mean there? He said the whistleblower is very credible, and all we're asking the FBI with respect to Form 1023 is, what did you do to investigate the allegation? All the FBI has to do is say, yeah, we looked into it and it wasn't a credible informant, and that's why we didn't do anything. But they won't answer the questions. But Fox is told the chair was not talking about the whistleblower related to FBI 1023, which carries an allegation that President, when VP, accepted money for a bribe to change the policy. So that witness is still safe. Comer's office also says that the chairman was using the term whistleblower and informant interchangeably. And so we're still not exactly sure what whistleblower we've lost track of, but we do know that the Oversight Committee has a hearing scheduled for this Thursday, and we will cover that time permitted. So we have this also coming out. The White House is refusing to disclose any emails, and the Secret Service just won't hand them over. Coming from the New York Post, Delaware visitors go and hang with the president, but the emails that identify the people who went to his home in Delaware can't be disclosed under FOIA. The information would be very nice to see. A lot of high-profile controversies involving the Biden's business dealings and his classified records. But the Secret Service flatly refused to supply records after more than a 7-month wait, when they were combing through thousands of emails to comply with the public records requests. The FOIA officer turned to an appeals court ruling in New York that in 2020 turned down a request for visitors to Trump's residence. He said, please be advised that emails reflecting visitors to Biden's residences are not agency records subject to FOIA. They're his personal records, and so you don't get them. And he sure is there a lot. The Secret Service claimed last year that no records were located showing, quote, logs of Delaware visitors. In September, Secret Service denied an appeal, telling the New York Post again, no responsive records were found. James Comer said Biden wanted to have the most transparent administration in history, but they're not turning anything over to us. And Jonathan Turley, a very intelligent lawyer, is explaining about how shocked he is that the corruption is being blacked out, calling it truly Pulitzer-level stuff. He said this week Byron Donalds tried to do the impossible. After he and his colleagues dropped a bombshell that the Bidens were receiving $10 million, he tried to induce the press to show some interest. He said, for those in the press, and we played this here, he said, this is easy pickings, man. This is Pulitzer-level stuff right here. Feast up. But the response was virtually immediate. Despite showing 9 Biden families allegedly receiving funds from corrupt figures in Romania, China, and other countries, the New Republic ran a story saying, Republicans finally admit they have no incriminating evidence on Joe. That's the title of their article. So after they come out with all sorts of evidence, this is what they post. Republicans finally admit they've got no evidence against Donald Trump. Look at this. Bunch of propagandists. So for many of us, it was otherworldly. Last year, Turley wrote a column about it, but the media ignored everything. Everybody confirmed it, New York Post. But millions of dollars have been shown to go to Biden family members, and nobody wants to talk about it. New York Times ran a piece, said no evidence of wrongdoing by Biden. New York Times. That is putting aside evidence against all the family members. It also ignored other evidence. And so the media is in full speed cover-up mode. Everybody can see it. And the whistleblowers just keep coming. And we'll be looking forward to see what they say when the time comes. All right. And we also have another story on, before we get to Durham, Durham's coming up right next. We've got one more quick update on what's going on with the CIA and the laptop cover-up people. Former CIA Director John Brennan was one of the signers of the Hunter Biden laptop cover-up, and he just was invited to sit down with the House Oversight Committee to explain his role in the scheme, including answering questions about this email with Michael Morell. We've talked about this one here, but former CIA Director and former CIA Director, they sent this email to each other, playing patty cake right in the month before the election. From John Brennan to Michael Morell in response to an initial email from Michael Morell, like all CIA guys, former. Michael said to John in the first email, John, can I add your name to this list? We're going to be adding Leon, Sue, George, Lisa Monaco, Mike Rogers, and others. And we're also going to add Dan Coates and Mike Rogers and Tom Bossert and a lot of other intelligence community career folk. We're trying to give the campaign, particularly during the debate on Thursday, a talking point to push back on Trump on this issue. Thanks, Michael. And John Brennan, this guy, the CIA director, responded. He said, okay, Michael, add my name to the list. Good initiative. Thanks for asking me to sign on. A couple of Trump haters very excited about creating a talking point for Joe Biden and the Biden campaign during the election in the final month before voting time. And so we know that that deposition happened, and let's see what Jim Jordan, who was there, had to say about it after the proceeding occurred.
When you have $10 million,
Sees it that way.
Ducey, is this at Washington, the screws to him? CIA director have to say when you put the screws to him?
He said for a 4-hour interview, Jesse,
4
and he
hours.
further confirmed that this thing was all political. Understand that Tony Blinken first contacts Mike Morell and says, oh, what do you think about this laptop issue? And then Blinken later that same day, October 17th, 2020, sends Mike Morell the USA Today article, the story. That story gets put in the very letter that John Brennan, Mike Morell, and 49 other former intel officials sign on to. And they, again, just didn't sign on as Mike Morell, private citizen exercising his First Amendment rights, John Brennan, private citizen. They signed on as former acting director of the CIA.
CIA.
They used their title. So yeah, we expect Mr. Goldman talked about public servants. We expect public servants not to use their title to influence an election. And it was so political when it was all done, this talking point they wanted to give Joe Biden for that final debate with President Trump. It was so political. After that debate's over, the campaign calls up Mr. Morell, thanks him for it. He gets an attaboy
Great job.
from Steve Ricchetti, chairman of the Biden
Exactly
campaign.
what we
So
needed.
it just further confirmed all that.
So, Congressman, did you ask him why the CIA lies to voters to swing elections to Democrats?
We asked him about what took place in the Publication Review Board, where it looks like someone, based on what Mr. Carrions, another individual who signed that letter, who had a different matter pending in front of that review board, gets called in October by that review board, and they said, your book is fine. Oh, by the way, would you like to sign on to this letter? So a current employee of the CIA was actively soliciting people to sign on to this letter that was used in a total political fashion with all their names associated, so Joe Biden would have a talking point in the debate. Why do you need a talking point if the laptop's not real? If it's all fake and Russian information, why would you need the talking point? And he presented it as if it was all organic. They just Shazam, it just happened out of the goodness of all these individuals' hearts. They wanted to do this as if there was no political motivation whatsoever, and we know that was not accurate.
All right, let's get some more follow-ups. I think you got to bring every single one of those 51 in there and
Mr.
get them
Clapper
on the
next
record.
week.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Congressman.
You bet. Thank you.
It would be very nice to get some answers about why our intelligence agencies did that and what the repercussions will be, if there will be any. Matt Gaetz was also out, and he had a very brief statement explaining his reaction to this story. He posted this on his congressional website. He said that they met with him for 5 hours. He said, today's interview draws into sharp relief the extent to which the effort to discredit the damning information on the Hunter Biden laptop letter was hyper-political, organized by former national security leaders and coerced by people who were working at the CIA at the time. And they told us that they were the experts and they were very smart and They were doing all of this to protect us. But now we know that they're basically political hacks. How do we know that? Well, because many of them also donated to Democrats. This story came over from Just the News. Says several of the 51 ex-Intel officials who signed Biden laptop letter donated to the Democrats. You're kidding me. That's just so weird. Here, just weeks before the presidential election, when they dropped this letter, a big group of them donated to Joe specifically. They went through FEC commission filings. 30 months later, congressional investigators are uncovering exactly what triggered this. Anthony Blinken, a campaign advisor to Joe Biden, who got rewarded with the Secretary of State position after he got this done. He sent a letter to Michael Morell, wanted to create a talking point. They did it. A joint report was released, but according to FEC records, at least 12 of the people who signed on to the letter made donations. James Clapper, you're kidding. Former CIA director Leon Panetta, and all these people signed as former directors. John McLaughlin, Nicholas Rasmussen, Jeremy Bash, Rodney Snyder, all of these people made donos in the amount of $18,900 over to Joe Biden. Many other people were involved as well. So our intelligence agencies just had another way to help their candidates. Many people made donations to political candidates, but not all of us could write letters that the media would take and run that our candidates could use as talking points to spread literal misinformation and disinformation to the country. But the CIA did it, and the media enabled them to do it, and it is just disgusting. All right. And so now, my friends, it is time to turn our attention over to John Durham. We have been waiting for this one for a long time. John Durham, the special counsel assigned to review the FBI's corrupt investigation of Trump's alleged ties to Russia, finally released his report. Took 4 years, concluding that the FBI investigation known as Crossfire Hurricane, something we've talked a lot about here, was illegitimate and should have never been opened against Donald Trump. So we are going to go through the report. It is very big, 306 pages. We'll hit the highlights. It is interesting that Jim Jordan has already responded to this publication, said, we've reached out to the Justice Department and we have special counsel, want to have special counsel John Durham testify next week. So we may see this discussed in an open forum in Congress very soon as next week. But let's take a look at the actual report itself and see what is inside. Here we go. The Durham Report, published May 12, 2023, coming in at 316 pages in total from the United States Department of Justice, Special Counsel John H. Durham. Here's what he says. Dear Attorney General Merrick Garland. And for context, remember, a special counsel is a prosecutor who is a part of the Department of Justice, but is segregated out from the Department of Justice so that they can have arm's length away from the DOJ. So we can say that their investigation was a little bit more independent. So in this situation, there was allegations that Donald Trump was being improperly investigated by the FBI. They said he had these connections with Russia, Russia collusion. We heard all of it. But the question was, did the FBI appropriately, legally, ethically open an investigation into Trump on those issues? Or was this just done because they're a bunch of partisan political hacks there? They appointed a special prosecutor to investigate this so that it wasn't being investigated by themselves. Hey, we investigated ourselves here at the DOJ and the FBI, and we found we did nothing wrong. Typical, but we want somebody else to take a look because we don't trust you. Now, after this process happens, Special Counsel John Durham has to write a report and give it back over to Merrick Garland so that the summation of all of his work over the last 4 years is nice and clear and articulated, including any recommendations and what happens next. If the FBI did everything great, maybe we don't have to do anything. But if there are a bunch of corrupt partisan actors with political ends in mind, maybe there should be something we should do. And if there were people who were criminal, maybe they should be prosecuted. Let's see what he says. The subject here is the report on matters related to intelligence activities arising out of 2016 presidential campaigns. He says, hey, Mayor, this report is attached pursuant to the rules. We shall provide a confidential report explaining these things. We've got an appendices. We've got all sorts of different things. He says, we want to thank your office for permitting our inquiry to proceed independently without any interference. Like you said. He writes, this is the full report. Report on matters related to intelligence activities and investigations arising out of 16. Table of contents, very large. Today, we're going to focus on the executive summary, which summarizes everything. As I mentioned, it's about 306 pages in totality once you get out of the introductory stuff. And there is just a lot. And let's spend a minute on the table of contents so we can get our head around the context of what is in this. So at the outset, we understand they're talking about FBI policies, how they prosecute, why they prosecute, how they do their assessments with preliminary and full, so procedural stuff. CHS guidelines, a lot of this is just preliminary stuff, including what does FISA entail, the different statutes that we use, the different rules, all the different criminal violations we probably considered. And then we get to the background facts and the prosecution decisions. Now, what was the FBI doing? Why were they investigating Trump? Evidence of predisposition to investigate Trump. In other words, these people were spring-loaded. They wanted anything to go and get Trump. They did. And when they were predisposed to do it, what happened? Well, they opened up Crossfire Hurricane, and they created all these various premises to go after him. We had investigative referral of possible Clinton campaign plans. CIA was involved in this. We have the Carter Page FISA applications, all sorts of details about the Steele dossier, something we talked a lot about here. We talked about Igor Danchenko and everybody who created the fake Steele dossier, which was the subject of the Michael Sussman trial, which we see here as well. Prosecution decisions with regard to Igor, with regard to Kevin Kleinsmith, Alpha Bank, Yodaphone, George Papadopoulos. Here we have Michael Sussman and Fusion GPS. So Michael Sussman was highly involved with the Clinton campaign, and he actually met with Jim Baker over at the FBI before Jim Baker went over to Twitter. So lots of details. Then near the end of this, we get issues with FISA. We get some other observations he's going to make. You know, these are some suggestions at the end of this report. And finally, he'll conclude with some possible FBI reforms near the end on page 306. So that is what this document contains. It is a very, very big report. And let's start with the executive summary and the details needed in order to get there. We will fast forward through. He says that the special counsel's investigation actually started, he starts with Robert Mueller. In March 2019, Robert Mueller concluded his investigation into the Russian government's efforts to interfere in 2016, saying, quote, including any links between Russia and Trump. That investigation from Mueller did not establish that Trump conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in election interference. Attorney General Barr directed John Durham to conduct a preliminary review into certain matters from 2016. That developed into a criminal investigation. So we see how this works. Mueller investigates Trump, finds no involvement. Barr comes in and says, well, why did you pursue all of this, FBI? Durham gets appointed. And he's been investigating this ever since. And we can see what the scope of his authority is and how he structured his investigation. Says, we did a lot. It was broad and it was very extensive, and we want to thank everybody who helped us get this done. Saying this report is a summary. It contains our judgments and also gives us additional observations. And we're working very hard. We're going to discuss a lot. So then we get to the executive summary. Durham writes, the public record contains a substantial body of information related to Trump and Trump's organization's businesses with Russia. These and related subjects are well documented. We've had a number of investigations. Office of Inspector General was involved, Crossfire Hurricane, and even Robert Mueller detailed much of this in his report. And so our review, in turn, is focused on separate but related questions. Okay, so Durham is saying we're doing things a little bit differently than the previous investigations. We're asking the following questions. 1, was there adequate predication for the FBI to open the investigation into Trump? Should the FBI have even opened this in the first place? And in their investigation, did they use the least intrusive investigative tools necessary? Question 2, was the opening of the investigation as a full investigation consistent with other intelligence it got from other campaigns like the Clinton campaign? Did the FBI, in question 3, properly consider other highly intelligent and significant intelligence it received and make distinctions here? If not, were any provable federal crimes committed in failing to do these things? Was there evidence that the actions of any FBI or third parties violated any federal criminal statutes, including making false statements? If so, could you prove that beyond a reasonable doubt? Did FBI agents lie, and can we convict them? Was there evidence that the actions of the FBI or the FISA court, could we charge people with crimes? Those are the questions. And Durham says our findings are sobering. He says, as set forth in greater detail, before the initial receipt by the FBI headquarters of certain information about comments made in a tavern by George Papadopoulos, an unpaid foreign policy advisor, the government possessed no verified intelligence reflecting that Trump or the Trump campaign was involved in a conspiracy with officials from Russia. Indeed, based on the evidence gathered in multiple exhaustive and costly federal investigations, including this one, neither the U.S. law enforcement nor the intelligence community appears to have possessed any actual evidence of collusion in their holdings at the commencement of their Crossfire Hurricane investigation. No evidence at all. Before the FBI got even this call from George Papadopoulos, they opened inquiries, saying, as set forth in greater detail, the record in this matter reflects that when they got information from Australia, the FBI opened Crossfire Hurricane investigation. We know this person, Andy McCabe and Peter Strzok, opened Crossfire Hurricane immediately. Strzok had pronounced hostile feelings towards Trump, but opened it. The matter was opened as a full investigation by Strzok and McCabe without ever having spoken to the persons who even provided the information. Somebody from Australia sends intelligence, it lands in their desk, they hate Trump, so McCabe and Strzok immediately open an investigation, don't even talk to the source, and they did that without any significant review of its own intelligence databases, didn't even look into it. They didn't collect or examine any intelligence from other U.S. intelligence entities, and they didn't do any interviews to even understand the information they got. All things that FBI agents would normally do. Using any of the standard analytical tools typically employed, they didn't do it. Had it done so, as set out by FBI rules, the FBI would have learned that their own experienced Russia analysts had no information at all about Trump being involved with Russia leadership, nor were others in sensitive positions at the CIA, the NSA, the Department of State aware of anything like that. In addition, the FBI and the records prepared by Peter Strzok in February and March 2017 show that at the time of the opening of Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI had no information in its holdings indicating that at any time during the campaign, anyone in the Trump campaign had been in contact with Russian intelligence officials. But they opened it anyways. The truth doesn't even matter. They needed a pretext in order to do it. And this is what led into the Steele dossier, which is the Trump PP story. And that led to Jake Sullivan ultimately posting on Twitter that there's evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, and the whole thing was not true. And the FBI was trying to paper over it. The speed and the manner in which the FBI opened and investigated Crossfire Hurricane because of Trump, during the presidential election season based on raw, unanalyzed, and uncorroborated intelligence also reflects a noticeable departure from how it investigated other people. There were foreign election interference plans aimed at the Clinton campaign. But in the 18 months leading up to 2016, the FBI was required to deal with a number of those investigations. And in those investigations with Clinton, the FBI moved with considerable caution. They required defensive briefings to be provided to Clinton and other candidates before they acted. The FBI also elected to end an investigation after one of its longtime and valuable CHSs went beyond what was authorized and made an improper and illegal financial contribution to the Clinton campaign. And in the third case, the Clinton Foundation matter, both senior FBI and department officials placed restrictions on how those matters were handled, so that essentially no investigative activities occurred for months. So they just put speed bumps. When there was a problem with Clinton, speed bumps, no investigations. In fact, they may be making donations. Went beyond what was authorized. Even CHSs are making donos to the Clinton campaign. All of it to stonewall it. But if there's even a hint that Donald Trump did anything, even if it's not true, they open up an investigation and move quickly. Markedly different from how they did things with Trump. The FBI, with respect to other highly significant intelligence it received, pointed to a Clinton campaign plan to vilify Trump by tying him to Putin so as to divert their own attentions away from her private server. Remember, Hillary was going through her own issues, and so she needed to say Trump, Russia, and they've been doing this Russia thing ever since. Unlike the FBI's opening of a full investigation of unknown members of the Trump campaign based on raw, uncorroborated information, in this separate matter involving a Clinton campaign plan, the FBI never opened any type of inquiry. They didn't issue any taskings, they didn't employ any analytical personnel, and they never produced any analytical products in connection with the information at all. The lack of action was despite the fact that the significance of the Clinton plan intelligence was such to have prompted the director of the CIA to brief the president, the vice president, the attorney general, and the director of the FBI, and other senior officials about the content within days. It was also of enough importance for the FBI to send a formal written referral memo to Comey and Strzok for their consideration. The investigative referral provided examples of information the Crossfire Hurricane fusion cell had gleaned to date. Everybody gets involved in this one. The Clinton, yeah, amazing. So now the Crossfire Hurricane investigation moves forward. Within days after opening Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI opened full investigations on 4 members of Trump's campaign team, spied on his campaign. George Papadopoulos got one, Carter Page, Paul Manafort, and Michael Flynn. No defensive briefing, though, was provided to Trump or anyone in the campaign. Clinton's people got that, but not Trump's. Concerning the information that they got from Australia that suggested that there might be some type of collusion between Trump and the Russians. No briefings at all. Didn't even ask him, hey, is this true? Just opened up Crossfire Hurricane and just investigated them. Not even a courtesy call. Instead, the FBI began working on requests for the use of FISA authorities against Page and Papadopoulos. Surveillance. The effort as related to Papadopoulos proved unsuccessful. The initial effort also directed at Page was also unsuccessful until Crossfire Hurricane investigators got what they designated as company intelligence reports. And where did those come from? Oh yeah, that guy, Christopher Steele, the Steele dossier. Company intelligence reports. The Steele reports were first provided to the FBI in July 2016. But for unexplained reasons, they only made their way to Crossfire Hurricane investigators in mid-September. The reports were ostensibly assembled based on information provided to Steele and his company by a primary subsource. We later learned that was Igor Danchenko. Durham says, our investigation here determined that Crossfire Hurricane investigators did not and could not corroborate any of the substantive allegations in the Steele report. Nor was Steele able to produce any corroboration for any of the reported allegations, even after being offered $1 million or more by the FBI to corroborate it. The FBI was so desperate for bad Trump information that didn't exist. They said, are you sure you can't corroborate this? Are you sure? He said, no, I can't do it. We'll give you $1 million if you can do it. Still couldn't do it. Further, when interviewed by the FBI in January 2017, Danchenko was also unable to corroborate any of the allegations in the reports. He said it was rumor and speculation and the product of casual conversation. Now, the rules, or in this document, there were other efforts by other people to go get warrants for Page. Those efforts, in order to get the Carter Page warrant, included having confidential human sources with the FBI record conversations with Trump campaign people named Page, Papadopoulos, and a senior Trump foreign policy advisor. FBI informants recording and spying on Trump's campaign based on fake information from Australia that wasn't vetted, wasn't corroborated, was immediately acted upon with the opening of investigations. They provided no defense opportunity to Trump, not so much as a phone call. They went to go get warrants so that they could spy on and record conversations with Trump's campaign based on nothing. And in violation of their standard operating procedures and the same gratuities that they would provide to their favorable campaigns. The FBI's own records and the recordings established that Page made multiple exculpatory statements to the individual who was a confidential human source, meaning he proved himself innocent. They think he's colluding with the Russians. He's saying things showing he's not. But Crossfire Hurricane investigators, they failed to make that information known to the department attorneys or to the FISA court, which is so gross. Let's see if anything happens to them. They know that he's innocent, but they don't tell the courts and they don't tell the lawyers there. Page also made explicit statements refuting allegations contained in the Steele report about his lack of any relationship with Paul Manafort. But the FBI, once again, failed to follow logistical investigative leads related to those statements and to report those things to the lawyers. Similarly, multiple recordings of Papadopoulos were made by a confidential source and a second source. And Papadopoulos also made multiple exculpatory statements that were not brought to the attention of the lawyers in the department or in the FISA courts. So they're talking openly. They're having good faith conversations with the FBI, telling them what they know. I'm innocent. This is what happened. We don't have any connections with Russia. And my statements are exonerating us. But the FBI didn't take those and do anything with them. Kept them away from the court, which is, I think, a total violation of your duty of candor to the courts and to the justice system. And it's a violation of protections in Brady, but we were not seeing actual prosecutions here yet, right? These are just investigations, but they are still so far out of pocket. They're not, in this case, he's saying that they failed to follow, okay? They didn't fail to do anything. This was all intentional. They knew what they were doing. These aren't incompetent people. These are people who know that they have a mission to go after Trump and people on his team. And if they go and investigate those things, it's going to lead them to answers that they do not want. So that's why they didn't do it. It says our investigation resulted in the prosecution and conviction of an attorney for intentionally falsifying a document for one of the FISA applications. Now he turns over to the Steele dossier. He says, in spring of 2016, Perkins Coie, which is where Michael Sussman worked, a U.S.-based international law firm acting as counsel for Clinton, they brought in Fusion GPS. This was their expert witness, external third-party investigative law firm. So Perkins Coie, big, massive law firm. They've got a bunch of lawyers. They don't do all of their work, so they outsource some of it to an investigative team who's going to do research and internet work and all. So Fusion GPS is doing that. They are brought in to conduct opposition research on Trump. In May 2016, and we covered all of this when we covered the Sussman trial here. In mid-May 2016, Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS met with Steele in the UK and hired Steele. So again, Perkins Coie hires Fusion. Fusion hires Michael Steele to investigate Trump and Russia. Steele described himself as a former intelligence officer for the British government, also at the time a confidential human source for the FBI. Beginning in July 2016, continuing through December 2016, the FBI received a series of reports from Steele that contained derogatory information about Trump concerning Trump's ties to Russia. Steele provided the first of his reports on July 5th, and we call those the Steele dossier, the Trump PP tape. As noted, it was not until mid-September that Crossfire Hurricane investigators got the reports. But within days of the receipt, the unvetted, unverified Steele reports were used to support probable cause in the FISA applications, targeting Carter Page, a U.S. citizen who for a period of time was an advisor to Trump. So these FBI hacks, they said, oh, perfect, Trump PP tape. Where'd this come from? Steele? Oh, great. Is it verified? No. Corroborated? No. We're going to check it? No. Great. Enough for us if it goes after one of Trump's deputies. As discussed later in the report, this was done at a time when the FBI knew that the same information Steele had provided had also been fed to the media and others in D.C. And this is because Michael Sussman was selling the story to both people. Remember, Michael Sussman, if we go back up the chain, Perkins Coie was where Mark Elias was working and Michael Sussman. And Sussman, who is just this, I guess, bagman who just delivers documents back and forth, he was trying to feed this story to both sides. Hillary Clinton was in the middle of her email scandal, of like what with the cloth, and she had to refocus the spotlight on anybody but her. So she needed to create this Trump-Russia collusion narrative, and they had one. They took the Steele dossier, which is fake, as we now know, and they had that created, fed from Steele up to Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS took that back to Perkins Coie. Perkins Coie is the law firm where Mark Elias and Michael Sussman work. So it went back up the chain. That's the law firm representing Clinton. Sussman takes the Steele dossier, goes and tries to feed it to both sides, wants to give it to the FBI, wants to give it to the media, and he's playing both of them against each other. He sits down with Jim Baker at FBI headquarters. For some reason, he had access in there. They were pals. And he said, hey, Jim Baker, the Washington Post, whatever, is going to run with this unless you at the FBI do something. Then he played the Washington Post against the FBI. He said, hey, I just met with the FBI. Have you heard about this thing that they're going to run with? And so they said the FBI is investigating. And the FBI says, the Washington's investigating. And so they're both having to take action on something that is totally fake. In particular, one allegation contained in an undated Steele report identified a well-developed conspiracy of cooperation between Trump, his campaign, and senior Russian officials. The allegation would ultimately underpin the FISA application's targeting page. Here's what the allegation said. Said, speaking in confidence to a compatriot in late July, Source E is an ethnic Russian close to Republican U.S. presidential candidate Trump. This source admitted there was a well-developed conspiracy of cooperation between them and Russian leadership. This was managed on the Trump side by the Republican candidate's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, who was using foreign policy advisor Carter Page and others as intermediaries. The two sides had a mutual interest in defeating Hillary, whom Putin hated and feared. This goes in a warrant. Some source says, well, Russian associates said Russia collusion. As noted, the FBI attempted over time to investigate and analyze the Steele reports, but they couldn't confirm or corroborate anything in there either. The FBI learned that Steele relied on Igor Danchenko to form the allegations, and Igor himself had told another person that he was responsible for 80% of the intel and 50% of the analysis. In December 2016, the FBI identified Steele's primary subsource. Danchenko agreed to meet with the FBI under the protection of immunity. He also met with the Crossfire Hurricane investigators. And thereafter, from January 2017 through October 2020, as part of its effort to determine whether the Steele dossier was true or not, the FBI conducted multiple interviews with Danchenko, saying, what did you give to Steele? But Danchenko was unable to provide any corroborating evidence to support the allegations at all. Described his interactions with his subsources as, quote, rumor and speculation, conversations of a casual nature. Yeah, but good enough for the FBI. Significant parts of what Danchenko told the FBI were inconsistent with what Steele told the FBI during his prior interviews. At no time was the FISA court informed of these inconsistencies. So the FBI knows the report is trash because Steele told them one thing and Danchenko told them an entirely different thing. But they don't update the court to say, hey, you know this thing that we used as the pretext in order to go get probable cause, to go get the warrants? You know that thing that is totally illegitimate that we told you was true? We don't want to talk about it. In fact, we're not going to update you at all, Judge. We're just going to, because you granted a warrant on false pretenses that gives us exactly what we want, we're just going to keep working on that assumption, and we'll probably not get in trouble. Moreover, Durham says, notwithstanding the repeated assertions in the Page FISA applications that Steele's primary subsource was based in Russia, Danchenko lived in D.C. He's barely even Russian. After learning that Danchenko continued to live in Washington and had not even left except for domestic and foreign travel, the FBI never corrected this assertion in its 3-page FISA renewal applications. Rather, beginning in March 2017, the FBI engaged Danchenko as a confidential human source and began paying him, making regular financial payments to him for information, none of which corroborated the Steele report. So the FBI is paying a source who doesn't even give them good information. They know he didn't give them good information, and they continue to pay him. Because even though the information's bad, he's very useful in their anti-Trump efforts. Durham says, importantly, as we discussed elsewhere, the FBI knew that in January 2017 that Danchenko had been the subject of FBI counterintelligence investigations from 2009 to 2011. In 2008, while Danchenko was employed by Brookings, he engaged 2 fellow employees about providing information for money. According to one employee, Danchenko believed that he, the employee, might be following a mentor into the incoming Obama administration and have access to classified info. And so Danchenko was very involved. But in 2010, the FBI initiated a request to use FISA against Danchenko, but the investigation was closed. And Durham's review finds no indication that Crossfire Hurricane investigators ever attempted to resolve the prior Danchenko espionage matter before opening him as a paid CHS. So this guy's just bad. And they used him anyways because they don't care. He's giving them good information. They tell us more about Danchenko's relationship with Charles Dolan. Danchenko also had a relationship with Charles Dolan, a professional Virginia-based public relations professional who held multiple positions and multiple roles in the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party. Charles Dolan. In his role as a public relations professional, Dolan focused his career on interacting with Eurasia, previously conducted business with Russia and Dmitry Peskov, and other individuals. So in the summer and the fall of 2016, at the time that Danchenko was collecting information for Steele, Dolan traveled to Moscow, as did Danchenko, for a business conference. They stayed at the Ritz-Carlton Nice Place, was on the site of salacious sexual conduct on the part of Trump, allegedly. Danchenko would later inform the FBI that he learned of these allegations through the Ritz-Carlton staff members. But Durham says our investigation revealed it was Dolan, not Danchenko, who interacted with the hotel staff identified in the reports. Our investigation also uncovered that Dolan was another source for at least some allegations of the Steele report. Dolan independently received other information that was very similar, and it made its way into the report. But the FBI never interviewed this guy. Why not? Our investigation revealed that the Crossfire Hurricane investigators were aware of Dolan and his connection to the Steele reports. In fact, we talk about it in other sections. The FBI interviewed hundreds of individuals through the course of Crossfire Hurricane, but it did not interview Dolan. Why? Is it because he's with the DNC? And he's got a lot of connections to Russia? Is that why? Because he's bad? They know who he is? Our investigators interviewed Dolan on several occasions. He initially denied being the source for the Steele reports. However, when he was shown a particular Steele report relating to Paul Manafort, he acknowledged that the reporting mirrored information that he gave to Danchenko. He acknowledged that he fabricated the information, made it up. Although both Steele and Olga suggested that they may have information related to the Steele reports, our investigation was not able to definitively show that Dolan was the actual source. So he says, there does not appear to have been an objectively sound reason for the FBI's failure to interview Dolan. So I guess I've got questions about this. Is it not illegal to fabricate information and give it to the FBI? Is that illegal? I don't think you're allowed to do that, generally speaking. Fabricate information and give it to law enforcement officials. Well, let's see if he gets prosecuted here. Danchenko, or if the FBI cares at all. So they say perhaps the most damning allegation in the Steele dossier reports was a company report which attributed Source E as a subsource. That was the person who was in the actual warrant in the FISA courts. Danchenko's alleged source, called Source E, was an individual by the name of Sergei Milan, president of the Russian-American Chamber of Commerce. But the evidence uncovered showed that Danchenko never spoke with Sergei Milan and simply fabricated the allegations attributed to him. We've got more allegations from Alpha Bank. Durham's office also investigated the actions of Perkins Coie attorney Michael Sussman, who was acquitted of any wrongdoing by a D.C. jury, and others in connection with Sussman's provisions of the data and the white papers to Jim Baker, formerly general counsel for the FBI who resigned, went over to Twitter files before Elon canned him too. Purported to show an existence of a covert communications channel between Trump and Alpha Bank. They were saying Trump was colluding through Alpha Bank. That's where he was getting money. Sussman told Jim Baker by text message and in person that he was acting on his own, not representing any clients or any other companies. But that's not true. He billed Hillary Clinton for it. They were false. Sussman was representing the Clinton campaign. He billed it and sent emails about it. And Sussman was also representing a second client, somebody called Rodney Jaffe, tech executive. And he also gave congressional testimony and other details. Now, cyber experts from the FBI examined the materials that were given to Baker, and they concluded they did not establish what Michael Sussman claimed they showed. Sussman made a separate presentation about Alpha Bank to the CIA, and it too concluded that the Sussman materials didn't show what Sussman claimed. The whole thing was fake. In connection with the second presentation, Sussman made a similar false allegation to that agency, which was, as we know, the CIA. With respect to the Alpha Bank materials, our investigation established that Rodney Jaffe had tasked a number of computer technology researchers who worked for companies he was affiliated with and who had access to certain internet records to mine the internet data to establish, quote, an inference or a narrative. Come up with anything you can find that will connect Donald Trump to Russia. He said, exploit your access to these special tools. He said, I want to please certain VIPs, meaning Clinton, referring to people at Perkins Coie and the Clinton campaign. During its investigation, Durham learned that after the election in 2016, Jaffe emailed an individual and told that person that he was tentatively offered the top cybersecurity job by the Democrats when it looked like they'd win. So he does all of this work, and then they say, you are our guy. You helped get us in. Thanks for creating these inferences. Thanks for creating these narratives, Rodney. Says that the evidence collected by the office also demonstrated that prior to providing the unfounded Alpha Bank claims to the FBI, Sussman and Fusion GPS, which is the opposition research firm, they had provided the same information to various news organizations and press reporters to write articles about the fake secret alleged communications channel. Literal disinformation. Didn't exist, not true. Moreover, during his September 2016 meeting with the FBI, Michael Sussman told Jim Baker that an unnamed news outlet was in possession of the information and they would soon publish a story about it. The disclosure of the media's involvement caused the FBI to contact the news outlet, whose name was eventually provided by Sussman in hopes of delaying the report. In doing so, it confirmed for the New York Times that the FBI was looking into the matter. When the FBI called, the New York Times said, "Oh, you're at the FBI? Oh, you are looking into it? Wow, that's great." On October 31st, less than 2 weeks before the election, the New York Times and others published articles on Alpha Bank. And the Clinton campaign issued tweets and public statements of the allegations of a secret channel of communications used by Trump and Russia. Allegations that had been provided to the media and to the FBI by Fusion and Sussman, both of whom were working for the Clinton campaign. The whole thing was an operation from top to bottom. They needed a story. They created one. The FBI was involved in it. The New York Times was involved in it. Many lawyers and law firms were involved in it, and they all covered it up. They all did it not out of the goodness of trying to root out a Russian connection. No, because they didn't like Trump and they needed bad stories to hit him with in the media because Clinton had so many. And so the conclusion from John Durham says, based on the review of Crossfire Hurricane and related intelligence activities, we conclude that the department and the FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law in connection with certain events and activities described in this report. As noted, former FBI attorney Kevin Kleinsmith committed a criminal offense by fabricating language in an email that was material to the FBI obtaining a FISA surveillance order. In other instances, FBI personnel working on that same FISA application displayed at best a cavalier attitude towards accuracy and completeness. FBI personnel also repeatedly disregarded important requirements when they continued to seek renewals of FISA surveillance, while acknowledging both then and in hindsight that they did not genuinely believe there was probable cause to believe that the target was knowingly engaged in clandestine intelligence. and activities on behalf of a foreign power, or that they were knowingly helping another person in those activities. They knew it wasn't true, and they proceeded with it anyways. And certain personnel from the FBI also disregarded significant exculpatory information that should have prompted investigative restraint and re-examination. So even if you are innocent and you tell the actual things that exculpate you, that show and prove you're innocent, the FBI just, well, you work for Trump though. So Durham says, our investigation also revealed that senior FBI personnel displayed a serious lack of analytical rigor towards the information that they received, especially information received from politically affiliated persons and entities. Now, I wonder who these people are and whether there will be repercussions for them. Hopefully there's a list, in the rest of this report. They're all named, titles are named, and they all get disciplined or fired, or the FBI gets defunded. But we'll see. The information in part triggered and sustained Crossfire Hurricane and contributed to the need for Mueller's investigation. In particular, there was significant reliance on investigative leads provided or funded by Trump's political opponents. The department did not adequately examine or question these materials or the motivations of those providing those, even when at the same time the director of the FBI and others learned of significance and potentially contrary intelligence. So everybody else was dumping leads on the FBI. Trump did this, Trump did this, and they're all being funded by people like Reid Hoffman. In light of the foregoing, there is a continuing need for the FBI and the department to recognize, this is going to be great, that the lack of analytical rigor, apparent confirmation bias, and an overwillingness to rely on information from individuals connected to political opponents caused investigators to fail to adequately consider alternative hypotheses and to act without the appropriate objectivity or restraint in pursuing allegations of conspiracy between a U.S. political campaign and a foreign power. Wow, that's really neat. So apparently this FBI is just they're a little bit off. They just lack a little analytical rigor. And apparently there's confirmation bias. Yeah. Although recognizing that in hindsight is much clearer, much of this also seems to have been clear at the time. Yeah. It was intentional. It wasn't lacking analytical rigor. They were actively pursuing an alternative theory because they didn't like the truth. We therefore believe it is important to examine past conduct to identify shortcomings and improve how government carries out its most sensitive functions. Oh, gosh. This report does not recommend any wholesale changes in the guidelines or policies that the department and the FBI now have in place to ensure proper conduct and accountability in how intelligence activities are carried out. So what the hell's the point of this whole report then? It's just a book report, I think. That's all it is. Rather, this report is intended to accurately describe the matters that fell under our review and to assist the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, in determining how the FBI can do a better, more credible job in fulfilling its responsibilities. All right. What? Are you serious? You're going to document this so that the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who is doing cartwheels that this worked? Well, I didn't say it didn't work in 2016, but all of it worked in 2020. You think they care about the FBI? John Durham, you think they care about doing a credible job and fulfilling its responsibilities? They won in 2020. Mission accomplished. Ultimately, of course, meeting those responsibilities comes down to the integrity of the people who take an oath and follow the guidelines and the policies currently in place. Guidelines that date from the time of the Attorney General levy and designed to ensure the rule of law is upheld. So the answer is not the creation of new rules, but a renewed fidelity to the old. The promulgation of additional rules to be learned in yet more training sessions would likely prove to be fruitless efforts of the guiding principles of the FBI: fidelity, bravery, and integrity. Those are not ingrained in the hearts and minds of those sworn to meet the FBI's mission. And so actually nothing comes out of this, it sounds like. No real recommendations at all. We know there are no new criminal charges. We know that the FBI is going to be asked to look into this a little bit further. Yeah, the FBI can do a better and more credible job. I don't disagree. I think that is true. They could do a better and more credible job in fulfilling its responsibilities. But they don't care about those responsibilities, John, and they don't care about the old rules and the fidelity of the old rules. This is so dumb. They care about censoring people on Twitter. Okay, now you can say John's perspective on this is from 2016, which is fine, and say this is all has to do with Strzok and Lisa Page and all of those people. But the FBI did the same stuff in 2020. They did, this time it was the CIA in the Hunter Biden laptop letter. They were all involved in creating stories, in using the intelligence community to create fictional narratives to support their candidates. In 2016, it was the Steele dossier. In 2020, it was the Hunter Biden laptop letter. It's the same agency. So the FBI didn't look after 2016 and say, yeah, we could probably do a better, more credible job here. And they're not going to read this report and say, let's improve this. Merrick Garland is going to flip through this report on the toilet, maybe, and throw it right in the garbage. Because honestly, there's not much really to glean out of it. I'm not real sure there's anything even here. You can read the rest of the report if you want. But the conclusion is going to show us here, what's he saying here? Some bias or improper motivation. The whole stinking agency is oriented. They were communicating with Twitter and the Facebook and Google and all of them to suppress American speech in 2020. The 2020 FBI is no different than the 2016 FBI, which is no different than the 2023 FBI. They are getting better at it. In 2016, they failed and they got caught. In 2020, they created the laptop letter and they got caught, but they don't care. So here's what John Durham says. This is the last page of the report. Possible FBI reform. Maybe if you want one. One possible way to provide additional scrutiny of political investigations is to have an official who's responsible for challenging the steps in the investigation. So the Attorney General could have a special position, and that special person could review issues and they'll be independent. So that might help. Yeah. All right. So here's what John Durham took 4 years to tell us, that the FBI is corrupt, that there is bias, and that they have partisan underpinnings, but that there's no real reforms that need to be changed. You know, it's just as long as they work a little bit harder next time. And as long as they just adhere to the current rules that are in place, if they investigate and corroborate their sourcing and double check things before they do things next time, maybe this all won't happen again. Which is a joke, because all of what they did was intentional. It wasn't a failure. It was a plan. It was a plot. It was a scheme. They did it in 2016. They played dumb the whole time. They did it again in 2020. It worked in 2020. Everybody bought it that time, and it helped get their candidate elected. And so John Durham gives us a nice book report, but there's no real concluding action there. Nobody's getting recommended for charges. If you want to read the rest of the 300 and something pages there, maybe there's some other names in there. Are there FBI officials who should be fired? Are there going to be people named in the FBI hauled in front of Congress? Is Christopher Wray going to come in and answer questions about, what did you do with this person, Chris? What happened with this? What policies have been changed? Has anything been changed? No. Why? John Durham isn't even recommending any changes. He's just saying, well, if they do a little bit better, maybe these failures won't happen again next time. So it's a great big book report, unfortunately. Not much there. And that's what we get from John Durham. So, all right, my friends, that's what we've got. And now there might be more. And again, I didn't read the full 306 pages here with us today. Maybe there's more juicy stuff in there that will lead to some actual change. But I leave this, reading this, with a feeling that we get no new information that we didn't already know. We already knew all of that. We already knew that they're biased and corrupt. And So, okay, thanks for the corroboration. Thanks for the verification of that. Is anything going to change at the FBI? Are you proposing any personnel changes? No. Are you proposing any criminal charges? No. Are you proposing any procedural changes or manual changes or policy changes at the FBI? No, no, no. All right. So what do we get out of that? A book report. Thanks, John. All right, my friends. Well, let's see what you have to say about this. We covered a lot of ground today. We covered the Durham report. We also got the Hunter Biden stuff. We know that they are meeting with John Brennan behind closed doors. We've got Biden whistleblowers have gone missing. We've got hearings coming up on that one on Thursday. We have updates on what happened with the Patriot Front weird group marching around in D.C. And we know that Biden and Mayorkas are going to be focusing on white supremacy in their new domestic terrorism push. And so we covered a ton of ground. And now it's time to see what you have to say about it over from our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is a great place to become a member for member-only streams. Come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, or become a member on YouTube, where we do member-only morning streams, Saturday shows, very regularly, almost all the time. So come and join us, and don't forget, if you're a member on YouTube, to get access to the private Telegram group, where the after party will continue after we are done here. And so let's see who is in the house. And I appreciate all of the amazing donos that came in today. Thank you, everybody, for it. A very busy show. Thank you to everybody who is here. Thank you for subscribing and liking and following along wherever it is you're watching this. This week, we're going to be very, very busy because we're going to have Carrie Lake trial coming up on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so definitely make sure you're sticking around for that. Let's see who joined us on YouTube this morning or today. Who's here? Voice of the People is here starting us off. Good to see you, Voice. Says, I find it sus that Patriot Front was marching the same day Biden spoke about the white supremacists. It is curious. Isn't that curious how that happened? And Mayorkas was also on Sunday hitting it. Very, very, very convenient, Voice of the People. It's good to see you, my friend. Glad that you are here. Passport Bro says no Antifa. Good to see you, Passport Bro. No Antifa, probably talking about them being in the Patriot Front. Eddie Oliver is in the house. Says the guy in the lead of the Patriot Front was a guy I know named Barry, but Barry works for the FBI. What would he be doing with a hate group? I don't know. I don't know. I guess they're one and the same, Eddie. I think they're part of the same group is what you're getting at. So they're part of, I think they're part of the same group. Indeed. It's good to see you, Eddie. Thanks for stopping by. My bedroom plant says, just wanted to stop in, show some love for the show. I'll catch the whole thing at work tonight. Well, have a great night at work, my bedroom plants. And thanks for stopping in. Thanks for the super chat. And have a great night at work. Watching the whole show. It's going to be a good one. Just Me's here says, is it just me? No, it's not. Or does biometrics sound like data mining my personal shopping? Please don't tell me my taxes are paying for the feds to find out my wife really likes flip-flops. Thanks, Amazon. That's from Just Me. Yeah, did you know Amazon has a whole, if you go over to Amazon, they have an entire federal agency landing page. Like, you go to Amazon, like you're not signed in, you go to Amazon, you're like, hey, buy this. Or you go to Amazon Prime, you go to Amazon Movies, right? It's all going to be in there. They have one for federal agencies. Do you need to put your CIA on cloud servers? Well, here's what we can offer you. It's kind of interesting because our government is so incompetent. They don't have smart people who can build cloud servers or something. Like, that's ridiculous, obviously. So they've got to outsource that stuff. Alex LaChance is here, says, celebrating my second year of law school, done with a subscription to Rob. Woo! Well, thank you, Alex. Thanks for joining us while you're in law school. Second year's a doozy. You know, what did I say? I think they say first year, they work you to death. Second year, they something you to death. And the third year, they bore you to death. But I can't remember what the second year was. And that's, you're in the second year. So that rephrasing was very, very useless to you because I don't remember what the second year one was. But you've probably heard about that. Anyways, good to see you, Alex LaChance. Good luck in there in your second law school. Hey, Kay Scott with a big super chat. Thank you, Kay. No question on that one, but very generous of you today. I appreciate that. Miss Kay Scott in the house. Good to see you, Kay. And Fred says, Fred Pedamonte is here with his rascally dog, Johnny. says the most dangerous thing in the U.S. is the mainstream media, period. I'd say they're definitely more dangerous than white supremacists, as far as I can tell. A lot more damage comes from what we've heard from them than anything I've seen from white supremacy in America. Good to see you, Fred. We had a couple others here. What happened here? Yeah, Just Cause is here. Just Cause says we had a big show tonight, my friends. We had 7,000 live with us tonight, and I appreciate everybody being here. Yeah, it was a big show. Says, join us watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It's a great place. We did a morning stream this morning, and we do morning streams every morning. So we'd love it if you joined us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Thank you, Just. Fred Pedamonte says, none of this can be fixed. It's too big and too deep. Well, I think if you got rid of the FBI, I think that would make a pretty nice move. No doubt about that. We had another one come in from Mark. It says, Robert Barnes called it 3 years ago. This report would be useless. He said Durham would run out the clock and find nothing. Shout out to Robert Barnes. I mean, there's nothing there. It's just a big book report. It's nothing in there. Thanks, Mark. I was hoping for a little bit more, but then it turns out to be a game of patty cake. He's like, thanks, everybody, for working with us for 4 years. What did he do for 4 years? Wrote a book? That's it? Oh, gosh. We already knew all that stuff. Curtis Bartle says, thank you, Rob, and the mods. You keep me sane. Well, thank you, Curtis, for being here. You keep me sane. You know, if we didn't have this opportunity to do these live streams, I'd just be reading these stories, probably, I don't know, throwing chairs out the window or something. Who knows, you know? Jeff Pearson says, triumvirate search in Durham report. You're saying do that search in the report? Triumvirate search in the Durham report. Are you saying it's in there? Here, let me do a search for that word. I don't see it in there. Oh, there it is. One word, one place. Triumvirate of control says in late January 2017, Supervisory Special Agent transferred back to WFO. He was replaced in a position by an experienced counterintelligence agency. Agent assigned. In his interview with the office, Agent 3 stated that when I got to FBI headquarters, Jennifer Boom informed him that his primary tasking was to renew the Page FISA application. Despite this tasking, Supervisory Special Agent 3 stated that his investigators did not feel connected to the Page investigation and were excluded from the flow of information and the decision-making process. An investigation that, according to the supervisory agent, was still managed by the Triumvirate of Control. This is a group of people exercising total control. Struck, Otten, and Section Chief Maffa. For example, during the course of their time, an investigator working for Agent 3 knew that Page had previously served as a source for another government agency. When Agent 1 eventually learned of that information, he stated he felt like a fool. And they would often ask, what are we even doing here? Because other people were controlling it. This same thing happened in 2020. Yeah, it's amazing. So thank you for that one. That came in from our friend on YouTube, Jeff Pearson. Thank you for that, Jeff. Naz Amar says the Durham report is a red pill for the normies at best. I mean, look, if you're not familiar with this, if you haven't been following this stuff, then yes, it's a great report. It's shocking that this happened. It's amazing that they did this. But we've already been talking about this here. We cover all of this is old news. This all came out in the Michael Sussman trial, as far as I can tell. A little more details there, some new information to put some meat on the bones. Okay. But if nobody else is getting charged, then what's the point? Or they're not changing anything. It's just a book report. Raymond Loera says, does this report completely exonerate Clinton and her foundation from conspiracy to defraud the American public? Thanks for the spotlight on this. No, I don't think that it, well, thank you, Raymond, for being here. And thanks for joining us and asking a great question. No, I don't think it exonerates Clinton, but she's not going to be charged with anything. You know, there was no, Michael Sussman, if he would have been convicted, that would have been the first domino in maybe other prosecutions, but he was not convicted. And so that's it. So I think that I think legally Clinton is exonerated. I don't think she's going to get prosecuted for anything, but I don't think she's innocent. I think that they knew exactly what they were doing with this Steele dossier thing, and they wanted it to work pretty badly. And the election in 2016 was pretty dang close. Maybe it did shift some votes. We don't know. But pretty amazing indeed. We had a couple others come over on Rumble, and thank you to Donut Mind Me, who is clipping these for us. We had from Rumble, we had Jeff Pearson says, I see my ex-chum Brian Otten was all over the report and identified as part of the triumvirate controlling the Trump investigation. I'd call it an unholy trinity. Good comment from Jay Pearson. And that was also in reference, that was Pearson on both of these, right? Yes, Jeff Pearson, you're on Rumble too. Good to see you. Jeff Pearson says, the biometric plan was aimed at all the general population. We already have all the biometrics on criminals. It's a huge constitutional violation. We do. We've got DNA stuff all over the place. We've got, fingerprints and stuff. And think about all the bio data that you already are giving with your fingerprints on your phones, with your face scans on your phones. I mean, I was thinking about that with TikTok. People say, well, everybody steals your data. Everybody steals all your information. Well, not really. I mean, we've got terms of service with Facebook and Google and stuff. And if they steal your privacy or ruin your rights, you can file a claim here and all that. Can't do that with China. But China, all these people have their TikTok apps and they're putting these facial things on. I'm like, that is scanning your whole face, right? And just beaming it over to China. So Jay Pearson says, the biometric plan is aimed at the general population. We've already got this stuff all over the place, and it's a huge constitutional violation. Hey, Dolphin Fan is the man and brought in 5 new memberships. Thank you very much, Dolphin Fan. John Doodle is coming in the house. Thank you to John. Welcome, John. Euro Wars is coming in. Jill Kindle coming in, courtesy of Dolphin Fan. Bria and Crota Cheese all coming in, courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man, joining up over on YouTube. Thank you very much for being here. And let's see who else we had. Gentifer on Rumble. Gentifer says, I'm so happy beyond words that the Durham report has been released, as many thought it was never going to happen. It shows treason, period. We call Durham the Punisher in the Patriot movement. Well, look, I am glad that it is all exposed. I'm a little bit let down, Gentifer, by the fact that he said that, I guess, he's basically saying we'll just leave it up to the FBI, I guess, to do something about this. But I don't have any faith in the FBI doing anything about it. I think, look, I know I was a little hard on John Durham about this, but he is doing a good service here. We are seeing a lot being exposed. It's all on display. If America wants to look into this, they can see the Clintons are corrupt. They can see the New York Times colluded with them. They can see that different public relations individuals were involved in it. And it's fake narrative creation in order to win elections. And so I am grateful that it's out. I'm grateful that we get to see it and then we get to go through it. But turning this over to the FBI for their ability to remedy themselves, I think is a little much. Gentifer says, even the Clinton News Network admits the report proves Trump is innocent. Is that true? That is true. And I think that is a real good feature of this, is that Trump is totally exonerated on this. And I think that's already, in evidence. But if CNN is admitting that now, that's also amazing. Hey, Chris Mayernick, welcome, Chris. Chris, welcome to our new membership. Don't forget to grab the Telegram link in the community post section. And who else is here? John McGarvey in the house, gifted 10 memberships. Woo! All right, so our members only chat is going to be lit tomorrow. We're going to have 15 new people there. Trigger warning in the house. Jerry Crouch is here. Welcome, Jerry. Laughing Lions, Zach C, Matt Olson's here, Diane B, Coco Hull, Harlan, Nerdy, and Bruce Leroy, all joining us courtesy of John McGarvey in the house. Thank you very much, John. Stephanie Olson just became a supporter. Welcome aboard, Stephanie Olson. And Raymond, thank you for that super chat. And we talked about that one, whether or not Hillary is going to be exonerated. I think she is exonerated. Zulu, thank you, Zulu. Zulu brought in 5 new members. Thank you very much, Zulu. Mainer's coming in the house. Lil old me coming in. We got Deborah and Adam K gifted memberships along with all the marbles. Thank you very much, Zulu, for sending that in. And says, yeah, hey, don't forget to get the Telegram perks. Yes, if you're a member, Zulu's been a member for 15 months, Zulu. Thank you so much. And says, yeah, grab the Telegram perks. Telegram's fun. It's a great chat. Drop PDFs and stuff in there from time to time. Scott Benbow. Scott, welcome, Scott, as another member. And don't forget, Scott, to grab the Telegram link. So if you're on YouTube, go into the channel homepage, scroll over to the community tab. You'll see members only posts there. That's where you can grab the Telegram link. And we're going to be going live tomorrow morning. We'll see what's in the news. We'll see what headlines are for our members only stream. And we're looking forward to seeing you there. Elizabeth Capone is here. What's up, Elizabeth? Thank you for the tip. Appreciate that. No question on that one. But Elizabeth C. Capone Cook in the house. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. C. Reed says, please show the GIF that Giga made of Dolphin Fan. All right, let me see if I can dig it up. Where is my folder? There it is. Let's see if I've got it handy. Dolphin Fan is the man. And we got it. Boom. Here it is. Coming right up. Although it's not playing in GIF form. It's playing in video form. But that's it. All right. That's not what I want. Let me open it up in the browser. Dolphin Fan is the man. Don't open this with... Oh, gosh. It's not... I'm trying to get it to open so it'll just play in this thing. But it's not working. I don't know why. Let me try this. There it is. I just dragged it in the browser. But it's still only playing like a minute. That's Dolphin Fan. Dolphin Fan is the man. We appreciate Dolphin Fan for coming in the house and supporting the show with your amazing memberships. Dolphin Fan is always in the show. And thank you, C. Reed. We love the gift. That gift came from Gigam Gigam, who is our meme smith, by the way. And so thank you to everybody who supported us today. We had a couple of other comments. Who else is here? All right, my friends. Now, let's go see what's up over on Twitter. Before we wrap it up, we have our after party for our watchingthewatchers.com, watchingthewatchers.locals.com community. And if you're on YouTube as a member, grab the Telegram link because that's where you're going to go for the after party. All right, let's see what's going on Twitter. Is anybody watching over there? Do we have anybody? Oh, no. We don't. It's just me. It's just me watching. No, that's okay. At least it's me. You know, at least we got one. All right, let's see who's in the comments. Paul says view count is a lie. Maybe it was just Paul over there. Or the FBI. It was the FBI who was watching us, is really what the story was. Let's see what else we got over on Danny McWilliams. Brought us in the Fighting Irish from Danny McWilliams. Says he wants his reparations check. Says the FBI are definitely watching this. A lot of comments there from Danny. Good to see you, Danny. Jeff says it's time to fix your internet. Your video quality used to be good for a couple weeks. It's been unwatchable. Is that my internet, Jeff? You sure? Is it mine? Or yours? Is anybody else having internet problems? Donna says, wait, what? You disrespected the people's vote. Only MAGA are trying to save Democrats. Save America. The Democrats and Biden are trying to destroy it. God help us for the mess they created. Blaming the FBI. Yeah, FBI is pretty bad, says. The Did they post this? Did the FBI respond to this? Oh, the FBI responded. Yeah. So what are they going to do? Are they going to do anything about this? Are they going to fix anything at all? Let's see what they say. See what our FBI agents say. The conduct, writes the FBI, in 2016 and 2017 that Durham examined was the reason that current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now already been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do its work with the rigor, objectivity, and professionalism the American people deserve and rightly expect. Okay, so that just proves my point, right? The FBI is not doing anything. The DOJ is not doing anything. This is it. That's the reaction. Okay, the FBI is done. That's it. They give you a paragraph. That's it. DOJ is not going to say anything else. Nothing's going to change. We've already fixed everything. And had we had these in place, our corrupt, partisan, hack FBI agents wouldn't have done that thing, which is total BS, because they censored and suppressed and worked hard to stop Trump in 2020. So we know that the ultimate root cause of this, which is a corrupt partisan FBI, has not been addressed at all. They have just implemented dozens of corrective actions. So as I said, Merrick Garland is going to take this. It's already in the shredder. It's already in the garbage. Nobody cares because John Durham gave it back to them. Can you guys please improve yourselves? All right. So that's a great update. Thank you for that one. Came in over from Donna on Twitter. Thank you, Donna. Donna's sharing some good memes over there. Brenda shared this one. Dear Feds, at least change your uniform before you go and you try to cause another insurrection. Jarbot's here. What's up, Jarbot? Says, let's be very clear here. Just as in the Clinton's case of missing or dead persons, the Biden team has a right to remain silent on missing whistleblowers. I fully expect he'll take advantage of that right leading into 2024. Yeah, Biden's going to really use that right to remain silent. He's using it very regularly these days. He doesn't want any involvement in conversating about what's happening in this country. Hey, Dolphin Fan. What's up, Dolphin Fan? Says, thank you for the meme, brother. Much love, and everyone here from Dolphin Fan is the man. And I didn't make that. That came from Jigam Geegum over on Locals. Jigam's a meme smith. And for some reason, it should loop. It should play in loop, but whatever I was opening it with was being very Rob out there. But it is a good meme. We're very grateful for everybody who supports this channel. Thank you for inviting members to join us. Thank you for leaving comments. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for inviting people to come and join us when we go live. It is a lot of fun, and it's better when we do it together. So bring a friend. We also want to thank Indoctrination. Says great reading today, but in need of a big white pill because this is not enough. Yeah, so thank you, Indoctrination. I tried to do a good job reading today. Sometimes it's better than other days, but we do need a big white pill. Yeah, this isn't going to be enough to do it. I mean, we've already known about all of this. So I was waiting for something more maybe, or some conclusion that's not just like, well, why don't you guys do better next time? Oh, shucks. A little bit more rigor. And don't be so biased next time. They're like, okay, yeah, we'll be less biased next time. Yeah, the country's less biased now than it was in 2016. Good call. So, all right, my friends, that is from Indoctrination. Thank you, Indoctrination. We are going back over to Locals here in a minute. Shout out to our Rumble friends who is in the chat. I see we've got Greg Adams is over there. What's up, Greg? Leisha. We got Loish is over there. What's up, Loish? Says we investigated ourselves and we're awesome. Yeah, Durham report 1R5 says equals common knowledge for years. Nick Danger the third is here. We've got Little Galaxies here. Says Rumble is fuzzy. Things look okay for me here. I'll take a look at it after the fact. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Indoctrination's over there. Doxy Lover. We got Paul Blart's in the house. Fairy Dance over there. Good to see everybody over on Rumble. But okay, my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. We covered some good ground. We are going to leave it there. We're heading over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you're a YouTube member, don't forget to grab the Telegram link and join us because we're not quite done yet. I also want to invite you to check out fieldofgreens.com where you can get your real organic superfood, and it is good. It's got cranberries and blueberries and antioxidant blends and metabolic blends. It tastes good. I even put it in sparkling water. It gives it a little bit of a froth to it. But if you're going to do sparkling water in a shaker, it's going to pop. So just be careful about that. I've made that mistake more times than I can count. Here, this is also a place where you can get your mind map on. If you want to get your mind map on, go to spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap. Sign up for a free account over there. Great software. I use it for all sorts of stuff. And now you can too with a free account, spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap. And big shout outs to our mods today who have been modding down the fort for us. Starting at the bottom, our friend Donut Mind Me, clipping away like mad. Thank you, Donut. We got Dog Digger. We've got Janek in the house. John Allen. Zach Nichols. Appreciate Zach and Geo and Zulu's in the house with some new membos. Ronnie Cole's here. We got Playin Hooky. Just Cause in the house, K-Bean, and our friend Vienticus Prime. It's Monday. I think he's on game night. And so thank you to our mods who mod down the fort and keep things nice and orderly. Shout out to our meme smiths, our friend Sleepy Dog Lee, Paul Mino, and Geegum Geegum, who created the Dolphin Fan GIF that we very much love. But that, my friends, is it for us. And so we are going to leave it there. We'll be back here tomorrow at the same time, same place, same time to do it all again. I hope you are subscribed with your notifications on. Although it's going to be the same time, so you know when it goes live. But the point is, I do hope to see you here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. And until then, be well. Bye-bye, everybody.